I couldn't believe I was actually doing this, standing on the edge of the unthinkable, staring down into the swirling chaos of Saturn, the gas giant that had haunted my imagination since childhood. There was no ground, no solid surface to break my fall, just an endless vortex of clouds, storms, and mystery. And yet, I jumped. The moment my body left the spacecraft, I felt weightless. Not the playful kind of weightlessness you feel in orbit, but a terrifying, soul-shaking surrender. Below me, Saturn's golden, hazy atmosphere stretched out like an ocean of liquid smoke. The air wasn't really air, hydrogen and helium, mostly. I knew I couldn't breathe it, and even if I could, the temperature was already dropping fast. My suit strained to keep me warm, to keep me alive. But I knew this wasn't survival. This was descent into oblivion. As I plummeted deeper, the sunlight faded into a dim, amber twilight. The layers of ammonia crystals and water vapor closed around me like curtains. I saw lightning, violent, unrelenting, flashing through thick clouds that could swallow cities whole. Each bolt lit up the sky in a surreal, alien strobe. My chest tightened. I wasn't just falling through weather. I was falling through a storm that had raged for centuries. Then came the pressure, not emotional, though that was there too, but physical, monstrous. The deeper I went, the more crushing it became. My suit groaned, creaked, strained under the weight of Saturn's atmosphere. I was only a few hundred kilometers down, but already experiencing forces that would flatten a skyscraper in seconds. My vision blurred, my ears rang, my thoughts scattered. I remember thinking how strange it was, how Saturn, from afar, seemed so peaceful, even beautiful. Those elegant rings, those muted pastel clouds, but down here, it was a beast, an ancient, angry god of gas and gravity. I tried to focus on the science to distract myself. Beneath these layers, deeper still, hydrogen turns to liquid, and then, even deeper, into metallic hydrogen, something we can't replicate easily on Earth. It behaves like an electric conductor. Somewhere far below, Saturn's core, a dense, hot, possibly rocky heart, waited like a secret no one should uncover. But I wouldn't make it that far. No one could. I felt my body compressing, bones trembling, suit alarms blaring, everything fading, time lost meaning, space lost shape. I was becoming part of Saturn, not dying exactly, dissolving, absorbed, and in that final moment there was peace, a kind of awe. I had touched the untouchable, stared into the heart of a planet that had no ground to stand on, only depths, only layers, only silence. And then nothing? Or maybe it wasn't nothing. Maybe it was something else entirely. Because in that stillness, where even pain gave up and drifted away, I felt a strange clarity, like I had peeled away from my own body, floating somewhere just outside of physics, watching the collapse of self with eerie calm. I wasn't a human anymore, not in any conventional sense. I was a thought, a breath, a flicker of awareness suspended in the crushing heart of a world that had never welcomed life, yet now held mine in its grasp. Below me, if below still made sense, the layers thickened. The gases became more dense, more alien. I remembered reading how eventually Saturn's hydrogen compress into something not quite liquid, not quite gas. The atmosphere stops behaving like air and starts behaving like fluid metal. My mind tried to picture it, rivers of silvery hydrogen flowing in unimaginable currents, electromagnetic storms crackling like the heartbeat of the planet. And then something wild happened. The radio in my helmet, dead for minutes, crackled faintly, not with a voice, not even with static, just vibration, rhythmic, patterned, almost like music but deeper, like the planet was singing. I wasn't sure if it was real or just my brain unraveling, but I felt it resonate in my chest like a lullaby from the void. Saturn was never meant to be visited. It was never meant to be touched. Yet here I was, a trespasser sinking into its endless depth, and somehow it wasn't pushing me away. It was swallowing me whole. Not violently, but with solemnity, like it had seen this before. like it had always known someone would come. I thought of Earth then, of skies that didn't try to crush you, of winds that smelled like trees and oceans. I thought of people, voices, warmth. I wondered if anyone would ever know how far I came, or how far I fell. If anyone would remember that once, a single person jumped into Saturn, not for glory, not for answers, but for the experience, for the question itself. What happens when you surrender to the unknown? I didn't have a body anymore. At least I couldn't feel it. The weight was too much, the heat too intense. I should have been vaporized, torn apart. But somehow awareness remained, fragile, flickering, but intact. Maybe this was how it felt to become data, energy, memory. Maybe this was how stars were born. Or maybe this was simply death, stretched out in slow motion across Saturn's endless skies. But I wasn't afraid. Because in that moment, drifting in metallic silence, wrapped in the cold embrace of a planet with no surface, I understood something. We're all just falling, always falling, through layers we don't yet understand, through lives, through fears, through ourselves. And sometimes to know what's at the core, you have to jump. And as I continued to sink, if you can even call it sinking, when there's no bottom, only deeper and deeper layers of pressure and time, I began to feel like I wasn't just falling through Saturn. I was falling through memory, through meaning, through every version of myself I had ever been. My childhood curiosity, that innocent awe, when I first saw Saturn through a telescope, came back to me with astonishing clarity. I could almost feel the eyepiece pressed against my cheek, the way my breath fogged the glass. That night I had stared at those glowing rings and felt something stir inside me, a longing to touch the unreachable, to understand the impossible. And now I was inside that impossible. The gravity was immense now. Numbers failed me. The atoms in my body, if they still held their shape, were being squeezed tighter than anything I'd ever imagined. I knew by now my body had stopped functioning. My brain couldn't process this pressure, this heat, this chaos. But somehow my consciousness, or maybe just the echo of it, lingered, clinging like a whisper in a hurricane. Somewhere below the core of Saturn loomed. We've never seen it, not truly. Scientists believe it's a dense, superheated ball of rock, ice, and metallic hydrogen, twice the size of Earth, maybe more. A place where temperature and pressure reach extremes that don't exist anywhere else in the solar system. I wondered what it looked like. I wondered if it pulsed, like a heart. Was I the first to see it? Or was I just becoming a part of it? I had stopped moving long ago, or at least I couldn't feel motion anymore. I wasn't sure if time had stopped, or if I had simply stopped mattering to time. Everything I had ever worried about, the little fears, the failures, the doubts, they all seemed so far away now, like echoes in another universe. Here, there was no ambition, no identity, no gravity that I could resist. Only surrender. And maybe that was the final truth Saturn wanted to show me, not in words or formulas, but in feeling. That some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, some are meant to be experienced, not with the mind, but with the soul. And so I let go. Not of life, but of the need to explain it, of the need to understand everything, of the need to climb, to control, to return. I became part of the silence, part of the pressure, part of the music I had heard in the deep. I became Saturn, or at least Saturn became me. And somewhere, light years away, a telescope blinked, and someone else looked up at those golden rings and wondered, what if they jumped? If you've made it this far, maybe some part of you has felt that same pull, the urge to dive into the unknown, to ask the impossible questions, to chase wonder, even when it scares you. We may never fall through Saturn, but every day we stand on the edge of our own unknowns. So if this journey stirred something in you, subscribe. Join me as we dive deeper into the mysteries of the universe, of the mind, of what it means to be human. Share this with someone who dreams beyond the stars, and let's keep exploring together, because the real adventure doesn't start when we have all the answers. It begins when we dare to ask, what if?